Hi and welcome to the second stop of the Norrmalm West walking guide. This stop is about the Palme murder, which was an event which took place in the central of Stockholm on the 28th of February 1986. On the night of the 20th of February 1986 on Sveavägen, an event took place that would shake the whole nation of Sweden. Olof Palme, Sweden's Prime Minister at the time, and his wife had been attacked by an unknown assailant. The unknown assailant had walked up behind the pair whilst they were strolling home after an impromptu trip to the cinemas. The assailant had put his hand on Palme's shoulder and then fatally shot him in the back. The shockwave it created in Sweden is still felt today, and is known as the day Sweden lost its innocence. In the weeks to follow, the country struggled to come to terms with what had happened. It was literally incredible to people due to the fact that they couldn't believe that something like this could ever happen in nice, safe, controlled Sweden, with it being almost 2 centuries since the last murder of a Swedish government official took place. Palme was one of Sweden's most famous and internationally distinguished politicians to this day. He was a strong campaigner for the working class in the Third World, and worked for peace and an end to the Vietnam War, and was an emotional and harsh critic of the United States as a participant in the war. He remained a reformer throughout his life, and he believed in a strong society where full employment and the public sector were the 2 most important means to increase equality between different social groups, as well as between men and women. Another one of his important reforms was the concept of a general welfare system. Everybody, regardless of their resources, should benefit from the welfare system. This would maintain solidarity and the will to pay taxes, as well as preventing the rich from obtaining private solutions out of reach of the poor.
Despite being the Prime Minister, Olof Palme sought to a life as ordinary as possible, and therefore he would often go out without a bodyguard as protection. And the night of his assassination was one such occasion. Whilst walking home from the Grand Cinema with his wife Lisbeth Palme on the central Stockholm street Sveavägen, close to midnight on 26 February 1986, the couple was attacked by an unknown gunman. Palme was fatally shot in the back at close range and then jogged up the steps to Malmskillnagatan. Although there were 25 witnesses who came forward to the police, no one was in the position to get proper observation on the killer's appearance. A cause to the murder was never found because the perpetrator was never found and arrested. To this day, there has been a number of conspiracy theories about who killed Palme, the most famous being Christer Patterson, who was arrested 3 years after the murder itself. He was picked out by Mrs. Palme at the station as the killer. He was tried and convicted for the murder, but was later released due to the fact there was a lack of motive and enough evidence to convict him. Other theories include that PKK, Kurdish Workers' Party, were behind the murder according to Turkish newspapers, but this wasn't true. Many believe that this was just Turkish propaganda. One theory even states that the Prime Minister was murdered by the right-wing extremist policy, who was opposed to Palme's immigration laws. However, this was never proven. One conspiracy theory also states that with the available evidence, an indication could be made that the murder was professionally executed. This is due to the fact that the killer seemed to know exactly what way the Palmes were going to walk from the cinemas, and then escaped as if the murder had a premeditated plan, along the route which prevented any vehicles from following him. Two of those who witnessed the murder described a contact between the Prime Minister and the killer. Two of the witnesses saw the killer speak to him for a while. This raised the possibility that Palmer was lured to a secret meeting that evening, a meeting that was a trap for him.
The Palmer murder remains to this day unsolved and a scandal for the police, due to the fact that the police had failed to seal off the crime area and covering too small of an area. The bullets used in the murder weren't found until 2 days later, when they were found on the pavement by a passerby. Mourners slipped past the tape to place flowers near a pool of blood. By doing so, they trampled the crime scene, therefore rendering the future searches for the killer's footprints useless. Also, key witnesses were allowed to leave a crime scene without being interviewed by the police.